Welcome TP professionals. Now the game of functional analysis begins. We have already seen the theoretical part in the earlier videos, which might be some complex or confusing. And even if it's not confusing, it's good. If it's confusing, then also it's good, because this entire practical part will clarify all your doubts, right? Be ready. I'm just sharing my screen. It's almost around 75 to 80 topics that we are going to discuss in this session. Probably we may have to break this session also, but yes, this is the entire practical aspects. Be ready that you are going to almost do around 30 to 40% of part in this day 3. Yes, so I would appreciate that if you complete the theoretical videos first, and then after you come to this part, if you have not completed that theoretical videos when on the beginning of this day. Right now I'm just sharing my screen so that we start with the practical aspect of undertaking the functional analysis. It's a process. You'll enjoy it, enjoy the process, and if you find something out of something which is outside this thing, don't worry, be resourceful. As I already said, that you need to stick on to the fundamentals, and then you have to develop your mindset, and that is where I always say that TP will increase your analytical skill power. Let me just share my screen. So guys, part 1, functional analysis process. Now before we get into the practical part, we need to understand that where exactly under the Income Tax Act lies the mechanism or lies the provisions with regards to the same. Why it is important? Because in case if any litigation comes in future, and where the tax officers may take a different stand, then you have to be stick to the rules and provisions. You can justify your arguments as well if there are some situations which are happening or like in a similar manner. Else I need to show you that where that entire functional analysis part lies. So guys, that part lies under provisions. So under the provisions of Rule 2B, Sub Rule 2, that is where the entire functional analysis lies, right? So I'll just read that. So Sub Rule 2 of Rule 10B says that for the purpose of Sub Rule 1, so Sub Rule 1 is basically methods of computing the arm's length price. Now the comparability of the international transaction or a specified domestic transaction with an uncontrolled transaction shall be judged with reference to the following, namely. Now we understood the commercial and financial relations, right, and the factors which are affecting those commercial and financial relations, right? Remember that in the earlier video. If you don't recollect, go to the earlier video, see that video and come to this video. All right, so they have been broken. So that particular theoretical aspect has been technically broken under the act, under rule Sub Rule 2 of Rule 10B. Now I'll just read that. So again, for the purpose of Sub Rule 1, so Sub Rule 1 is basically most appropriate methods. It lists down the methods of transfer pricing, as you might be knowing, cup method, RPM, etc. So the comparability of an international transaction with uncontrolled transaction, right? Understood? The comparability of an international transaction with an uncontrolled transaction shall be judged with reference to the following, namely. So these are the factors which you are required to judge before going into the comparability analysis, that is part 2, right? You have to judge and you have to be clear on this particular factors. In one of my case, let me just share that also with you. In one of my case, probably I don't recollect it was in TP report or it was before the transfer pricing officer. He he abruptly didn't follow this particular Sub Rule 2, and he arrived at a method and he benchmarked the transaction. He took the comparability analysis. So I was able to identify and I was able to tell him that, sir, first you need to follow this entire set of methodology. That is, first you need to do part 1 and then you have to go to part 2. It may happen because it's not the fault of transfer pricing officer. I'm not blaming someone, but yeah, people in the hurry, when they are quick, they miss the part. So as a consultant, this is the key, that you should know how to undertake that entire process of arriving at an arm's length price. I hope that clarifies. Now we'll study that all 4 parts. What are those four parts? First is that you need to understand the specific characteristic of the property transfer or service provided in either transaction, right? Simple to understand. You need to understand the nature of property, whether it's a semi-finished good, it's a finished good, it's a raw material, or it's an just what do you say, spare parts. It may happen in manufacturing sector, right? And the services provided. So services provided could be low end service, high end service. It requires more manpower, it requires more skill set. So that type of characteristic, specific characteristic on that services you should be able to understand. Then the B part, the famous part, the functions performed, assets employed and the risk assumed. That's a B part, right? Then the C part is contractual terms, right? Whether the some terms are in formal written, or they are just formally agreed between the parties of the transaction, which lay down the explicitly or implicitly how the responsibilities, risk and benefits are to be divided between the respective parties. So now contractual terms also, so you need to understand that the agreement will also say something about the conduct. You don't have to just rely on that agreement as a consultant, but yes, if the agreement is there and if you are not able to understand particular role, distribution of role or responsibility, you can refer to the agreement and you can confirm that from your client, and appropriately you can take that particular thing into consideration. And the fourth part, that is conditions prevailing in the markets in which the respective parties to the transactions operate, including the geographical location and size of the market, the laws and government orders in force, cost of labor and capital in the markets, overall economic development and level of competition, whether the markets are wholesale or retail. So these are geographical conditions and economical conditions which operate in the market. Now you may relate this to what we studied in the earlier video, right? Let me just open also that part. So as you may have studied here, right? But this part, this was arm's length principle, sorry. So now you can relate this entire thing with this part. Good to know, interesting. Yes, so I'll just move ahead. I just wanted to show that, see, OECD will set the base for that particular context, and how it gets incorporated under the provision. This is the thing you can see before your screen. Let me just zoom it out. Alright, and I would request, please, if you are watching on mobile, I would prefer that you watch it on iPad or probably on your laptop. Don't watch in mobile, because certain theoretical part will be very minutely, you will have to see the things, and you may also get disturbed due to some notifications and etc. So don't watch in mobile, just watch it on iPad or laptop. That's it. So guys, now you can understand that where this entire function analysis provisions lies under the Act. You need to follow that so that you arrive at a arm's length price. I'll just close down this part. Alright. Now, we go to the next part, which says that how to undertake function analysis steps. Now the practical part, which I'm going to explain now. Now, let me just zoom out this. This is fine. I have to close this. Okay. Now, we have read the provisions under the Act. That's done. Now, how to undertake function analysis? Long process, right? But it's not so long. Now, first part is, now you can note down all such points, so that you understand, and you have to follow this process every time. Okay, don't miss anything out of this process if you want to be a successful transfer pricing consultant or successful transfer pricing professional, or if you want to deliver the best quality of document. Just don't miss this process, right? Now, understand the nature or characteristics of the product sold, right? Review the intercompany agreement and key clause. So review the intercompany agreement. First is understand the nature and characteristics of product or service being sold. Second part is review the intercompany agreement. Now you may say that, Abhishek, that is fine, you have just written here that review intercompany agreement. What are the clauses that I need to review? So let me tell you. Okay, rather than I giving you that entire agreement, let me tell you that agreements are available over the public domain, so you can check any of the agreement, right? So when you are drafting also that agreement, or when you are reviewing that agreement, So it may happen that at times you may have to just review that agreement, or at times you have to draft from scratch a transfer pricing. So once when you become a transfer pricing professional, people may come to you to tell you that, okay, please draft an intercompany agreement for my company with my associated enterprise. So you need to review certain clauses, you have to consider certain clauses, you have to keep certain clauses in your mind so that you don't deviate from unrealistic terms. It should be commercially rational terms which you put down in that agreement. Now what are those particular terms? I have just listed down, there could be more terms as well. Now first, review the purpose and preamble part of the agreement. What it tries to say, it should be very clear that what the scope of that agreement is, what the preamble is, what the purpose for that agreement is. It should not be just vaguely drafted, right? It should have a definite purpose and preamble, correct? Then you have to review the detailed nature of transaction, right? If it's a service agreement, intercompany marketing support service agreement, then there's the marketing support services, what type of services that entity is going to perform, right? So that is a detailed nature of transaction. Then scope of services, if it's a service transaction, as I said, if it's a detailed scope of things are to be reviewed. If it's a purchase sale transaction or tangible intangible property, or probably transfer of intangible, whatever the nature is, everything should be mentioned in that particular transaction, should be explained well in detail. Then roles and responsibilities of the parties to the transaction. So there could be a separate clause, or there will be a separate clause of roles and responsibilities, from where you need to understand that no roles are duplicated, no responsibilities are being duplicated. You need to have a clear perspective of what role what party is performing and what is the responsibility of what party. So roles and responsibilities. Risk being assumed by each of the party, that is responsibility in the case of any failure of or any other event, or any IP infringement, such type of, or any service delivery failure, product return, etc. That also you need to understand and review that in agreement. See why I have listed down this clauses also here, because there should not be any such clause which is not commercially rational, and which actually by way of agreement you are putting down the other party, which is actually not liable for that particular thing under scanner. So you need to understand that if the two parties would have agreed upon this agreement, what would have been the circumstances. So that all things you need to review when your client comes up with you with an agreement, right? So risk being assumed, if this all clauses does not, by reading you will come to know that if these clauses are not realistic in nature, you can always advise your client to say them, sir, this is where the problem lies. It could be in one particular clause, it could be in set of clauses, or it could be in entire agreement, right? The client, for their comfort, may bring you some well drafted agreements as well, but you need to be smart enough to say that, sir, this doesn't happen in the third party scenario. The tax authorities may come up and may question on that aspect. You need to make your client understand that part as well. All right. Manner in which the tangible and intangible assets are being utilized, right? IP or royalty or any brand trademarks, or in case of software development, any of the platform which is being used, etc. So this is manners in which the tangible or intangible assets are being utilized. So that also is required to review under an intercompany agreement, right? Remuneration model, that is basis of remunerating the other party. Remuneration model means compensation part, how you are getting compensated or how you are making the compensation to the other party. Then payment terms and credit period. Now in normal circumstances, people may give credit of 30 to 45 days, but in your agreement, if it's a 60-day, then there's a red flag, right? Nobody will accept that, because in a market scenario, nobody goes beyond 45 days. I'm just giving an example, right? Probably in certain cases, it may go beyond that, but you should avoid some unnecessary things, right? Then duration, that is how much time this agreement will be in existence. It cannot be a lifetime thing, because for lifetime you cannot pay the same remuneration, right? There should be some growth factor in it, or probably the arrangement, like in case of commissioner arrangement, you can go ahead with the commission, but yeah, you need to have a duration to that agreement also, right? The economics do change day by day. And the terms of termination, right? So these are the terms of termination. It should have a very realistic terms of termination. Not only unrealistic. People may put down some unrealistic terms, and they would have put that terms deliberately into that agreement, right? So you need to also review that part also. All right, don't take stress. You have to just consider all such things when you get when you review agreement or when you draft agreement. You need to take care of all such things. That is what the point is, right? Now we come to the other part. So we are right now understanding the process of undertaking the function analysis, right? Now, what if there is no intercompany agreement to understand the key arrangement on the above clauses? Then you should take discussions with your client thoroughly on the above aspects. There is no other way, right? Client would be knowing all the things. He would be explaining you all the things. But for that, you need to undertake the discussions with the client. And you need to understand the key arrangement on the above clauses. Now, I'll catch you in the next video where we will be discussing this fourth point, because this is going to be big point. I'll catch you in the next video where we are going to discuss from the point number 4. Till then, take it easy. Hope you are enjoying this entire process. I'll meet you in the next video. Thank you.